What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to talk about the most underrated team in the league. And honestly, maybe I'm a little biased here, but it might just be the Winnipeg Jets. Coming into the year, a lot of people were saying, oh, the Jets are very mid, and I was one of them. I'm going to be fully transparent. Like, if you're a long-time watcher on the channel, I am very, cautious when it comes to the Jets being good and everything like that and any kind of expectations. But this year is different than the last few for a few different reasons, and we're going to go over that in this video. But I feel like the Jets are being slept on pretty hard this season so far. So if we look at the Winnipeg Jets and their expectations coming into the year, you're probably thinking, maybe a bubble team, like a wild card at best kind of thing. And I think that, that was completely reasonable thinking for the time. And, with the way the lineup looked, I mean, the defense last season wasn't very good. And coming into this year was basically the same. Ville Heinola got hurt, so, despite having a really good preseason, I thought it was going to be more of the same on the Jets back end. I didn't think that they were going to be very good. I thought that, a lot of this team would be pretty good, but not good enough to hang with the big guys. And I'm wrong. I was definitely wrong. This is a Jets team where everything has kind of gone right so far for them, even through injury. They lost Gabe Vilardi 3 games into the season, and they've still been cruising along. They're currently second in the Central. I didn't really see that coming, and I'm really impressed with the team. And I know that a lot of people are saying, hey, hold your horses, don't get too excited yet. But it's hard not to, because this is a very, very different team than the team we had last year. And I see a lot of people comparing the last couple of years and how the Jets reached out and had so much success early on to, this season. They're doing the same thing, but they're winning more sustainably, and the roster is so much better, especially with the forward core. I mean, last season, a calendar year ago, up until the trade deadline, the Jets didn't have Vladislav Namestnikov. They didn't have Nino Niederreiter. They didn't have Vilardi, Iafallo, Kapari. They didn't have those guys. All of those players that I mentioned, they can put pucks in the back of the net, but they are also very defensively responsible. And I think that goes a long way, with the structure that Rick Bowness runs and the style of team that Rick Bowness runs. I think that goes a long way for the Jets, and I think that's the biggest reason they've done so well this year, because they've been playing as a team. Everybody's been chipping in. They've been able to put pucks in the back of the net, but they've been able to play responsibly and not been frantic in their own zone. They've been able to get it out most of the time, right? They've been really good 5-on-5, and that's not something that you could say for a lot of the year last season. Now, a big reason the Jets are winning is because they've been able to put pucks in the back of the net, and two players that have really found chemistry this season are Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. They have been going off. Connor last season, he kind of had a little bit of a lackluster year. This year, you cannot say that at all. Through the first 20 games of the year, he's 14 goals, 9 assists for 23 points. And who's been setting him up for those? Well, it's the guy that I just mentioned, Mark Scheifele, who has 7 goals, 16 assists for 23 points on the year. Those guys have been making each other better. Mark Scheifele's always been a playmaker at heart. His hockey IQ and his hands are his best asset in the NHL, and he's been putting that on full display this season, setting up his teammates all over the ice, but especially Kyle Connor, making room for Kyle Connor to drop home those snipes, those bombs, everything. Those guys have been dynamite together. But Scheifele definitely deserves an apology from me and a lot of other people. He's been lights out this season. When he signed that deal at the beginning of the year, the matching 7-year deals with him and Hellebuck, and it really freaked me out that the Jets did that, because I was worried that we were going to see another subpar year of Mark Scheifele, and that he was maybe going to start regressing, because last year didn't put up the numbers that maybe we're used to from Mark. But this year he looks dominant, and you can't deny that. He looks like a legit elite 1C this season, and I'm loving what I'm seeing from him. I'm loving the duo with him and Connor, and I'm hoping that when Gabe Vilardi does come back, looks like it will be soon, that he will step in and that line will turn into maybe one of the best in the NHL. Who knows? We'll see. But those two guys have been one of the biggest reasons Winnipeg has had so much success this year. They have been driving the bus. But when those guys are having an off night, the third line is there to save the day, as Nino Niederreiter, Adam Lowry, and Mason Appleton have arguably been Winnipeg's most consistent line all season long. And this is a big shocker for sure, because this is a shutdown line, that's what they're viewed as, but they can also put the puck in the net, and that's not something that you really expected from Mason Appleton and Adam Lowry last season. A lot of the year, they were invisible offensively. Their defensive game was fine, but, not much to speak of on offense at all. to put in perspective how well Mason Appleton's played this year and how effective he's been, in 41 games played last year, he had 16 points. Through 20 this year, he's got 15. He's 1 point away from tying last year's, and he's already passed his goal total from last season. So Appleton is a massive factor on this line, playing really well defensively too. He's been responsible. It's just been, coming together for Winnipeg. And when you have Nino Niederreiter beside Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton, just that big force, another big force that's good offensively and defensively, you just got a really strong unit out there that can play both ways, is super reliable, and can eat minutes and can take on the other team's best players. And they didn't really have a line like that. They really only had maybe one line that was going every night. It was really disappointing last year, considering some of the talent that they had. But now this year, everything seems to have come together, and it's really fun to watch. Winnipeg has 4 real lines that you can roll all the time, and that's not something that they've been able to do for probably 4 to 5 seasons now. But we've talked about the first line so far, we've talked about the third line, and all of those guys that have stepped up. Continuing that theme, on the second line, we have Cole Perfetti, who has been lights out this season. He has 7 goals, 10 assists, for 17 points in just 20 games played this year. He has been such a surprise. He's been unbelievable defensively, offensively. He's had way more confidence in his shot. Cole has looked like the whole package this year and is really, taking that breakout step. Last year was a nice step up to him being a contributor, but so far this year, he's taken that step to being a force in the NHL, and it's been really, really fun to watch. He's really fun now, and I just can't wait to see what he turns into by the end of the season. So we've had a lot of guys stepping up in the forward core, and on defense we've had more of the same. We know what we're getting from Morrissey and DeMello, very responsible pairing that can add offense. On that second pairing though, that's where it's been, kind of wishy-washy for Winnipeg the last couple of years. Neil Pionk, Brendan Dillon last year didn't have a very good year at all. This year, they've stepped up. Dillon has looked way better. He's adding offense. I know a lot of people are joking that he's, in the race for the Rocket Richard. He's definitely bombed home a few goals this season. Neil Pionk has, kind of been okay defensively as well. He hasn't been a total liability in his own zone. Nothing that I see that's totally as dramatic as last season. And that second pairing honestly hasn't been that bad. Schmidt and Sandberg have largely been the third pairing for most of the year, and while Sandberg struggled a little bit during the season at the beginning of the year with Nate Schmidt, and Schmidt doing the same thing sort of, it seems like they have calmed down a bit and just haven't been putting themselves in bad situations for the most part. And just that alone has gone such a long way, because the defense last year, they were just trying to cause chaos. Last season, I dubbed Neil Pionk here on the channel Captain Chaos. This year, he's been, a lot tamer. So I'm really grateful for that, and the defense just has to keep doing that. Maybe the Jets upgrade their defense at the deadline. I really hope they do. I think that would really make them a scarier team at a, real solid caliber number 3, number 2 defenseman at the deadline, and I think they're rolling. Now, something that Winnipeg does need to work on is their special teams, and I do think that they'll get there. The power play started to get better. Currently, it sits 20th in the NHL at 19.4%, and they just have far too much talent for that power play to keep running at that rate. I think it will improve. Even if they can get it to around like the 15 to 12 mark, I think that'll go a long way for them. Now, with the Jets being so dominant 5-on-5, the power play hasn't been such an issue, but the PK has been, as it currently sits 27th in the league at 73.8%, and that's just not good enough. Flat out, not good enough. You've got way too many, great defensive players for it to be this bad, and I do think it will improve, but it does need to improve quickly, because if the Jets are to, be that team at year end that's going to take on these big guns in the playoffs and make some noise, penalty kill needs to be better, because those teams are going to have great power plays. Good teams have great power plays, and if the Jets are a team that just can't handle being down a man, then they're going to get eaten alive, and they're going to be out in the first round like we've seen pretty regularly the last few years. So that needs to change, and quickly. I'm hoping that, with Gabe Vilardi coming back, that he will be able to be a bigger part of that penalty kill. Maybe Alex Iafallo gets a look in there. Maybe even Cole Perfetti. He's a dark horse. He's been very good defensively this year. Something tells me that Scott Arneal's not going to let that happen, though. We will see. But I just think that this is probably the most concerning part of Winnipeg's game, and something that they need to address probably sooner rather than later. But to wrap this all up, the Jets have 4 really good forward lines that can score and that can play both ways. They've got a defense core that has been really solid so far this season, and you've got a goaltender in Connor Hellebuck who had a rough start to the year but is now starting to find his game and looking like that Vezina caliber goalie that we're used to seeing. All in all, I think that the Jets are really overlooked this year. I think that a lot of people aren't taking them as seriously as they should be, and I think that they could be a big problem in the playoffs if they, add another big piece or two. But I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, leave a comment down below what you guys think about the Winnipeg Jets as a whole, as the team. Am I getting too ahead of myself? I want to hear it from you guys. Let me know down below. Now, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Go Jets, go. Bye-bye.